You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, check out chrisblair.com. Hey everybody, here's another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. I'm your host, Chris Blair, and this week I sat down with Ryan Larkins. Now, I gotta tell you, I didn't really know Ryan very well. We had crossed paths a few times while he's played shows at the listening room, but I've never really gotten to know his story. So sitting down, just hearing more about him, his work ethic, his passion for music, it was just so inspiring. And the guy's heart, I mean, you can just see it on his face. I'm so excited to see what this guy does. He was born in Nashville, which if you know, you know, most people move to Nashville. So he's one of the rare guys that is born and raised in Music City, in and around music since he was born. He started writing at the age of 12. And then in 2009, he was on the CMT show, You Duet, where he got third place. So we talk about all that and the song that he picked on that show, Tennessee Waltz, why he picked that song and what it meant to him. He's been writing with a lot of great songwriters, J.T. Harding, Tom Douglas, Connie Harrington, Tim Nichols, Lee Miller, Jesse Alexander. I could go on and on. But also one of them is Country Hall of Fame member Bill Anderson. We talk about a song that he wrote with Bill that got him his first Grammy nomination and also became a duet with Bill Anderson and Dolly Parton. That song's called Someday It'll All Make Sense. Go check that out and listen to the episode to hear the whole story. He's also got a new song out with Cody Johnson that he's going to talk about that's very cool. And just a week before we recorded this, he did a show with Willie Nelson. He opened up for Willie Nelson, and that's just a whole cool story he's going to talk about. He also has an EP coming out on October 13th, so make sure you go pre-save that and check it out. But you can also get two songs that are out right now, Man That Holds the Beer and She's the Tough One. So again, we talk about all of that and more in this episode. It's so cool. You're going to love this guy, Ryan Larkins. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, this is Chris Blair, and here's another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. I'm here at the listening room in Nashville, Tennessee today with Ryan Larkins. Ryan, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for getting up early and joining us.
Man, thank you so much for having me. It's going to be fun today.
Absolutely. Well, let's just start from the beginning. You're one of those rare guys that is from Nashville that doesn't happen often. So you grew up in Music City and kind of around music all the time. So take me back and tell me what that was like.
Yes, sir. So it's the wildest thing. I grew up in Nashville, but I grew up in a very strict Pentecostal home. My dad was a preacher, a pastor growing up. And as close as I was to Music City and to Music Row, I had no idea about country music. I grew up on gospel music my whole life, and so I grew up singing these old hymns in church. And I just remember, from an early age, we were singing from the songbook, Amazing Grace, all those great hymns. And it's pretty wild. A friend of mine from church, when I was probably 20, 21, he was like, man, we need to go try out for this show. Can You Duet? It's on CMT.
Yep.
And we need to just learn a couple country songs, and we'll be the next Brooks and Dunn. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. Who's Brooks and Dunn? So we learned some songs, and I made it on that show. It was wild. Growing up, I never had a TV, and so I was standing on the stage, and I looked out at the Wild Horse Saloon, and every TV in the whole place was like my face, and it was the wildest. it was just the wildest thing ever. And but I fell in love with country music. I mean, just through that whole process, there were like these parallels. I would see these preachers come in my church growing up, and they would just tell these stories that had me on the edge of my seat, And then I would listen to like Randy Travis. I would listen to Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson, and I mean, it's the same kind of thing. I mean, they're telling these stories that just make you stop and listen. And I thought, I've got to do this. I want to write these kind of songs. I want to tell these kind of stories. And I just fell in love with it.
Man, that's so cool. So one of the things I thought was really interesting on that show, Can You Duet? And maybe, like, maybe it's because you were diving in and kind of like giving yourself an education of like the older country.
Yes, sir.
But what made you pick Tennessee Waltz?
Man, there was just something about that song, being from Tennessee. That's part of it. I thought this represents my state, but there was just that classic, that classic melody, those words. It just, I fell in love with classic country. That's just what I love. I love classic country music. And so that's, I just thought that would be a great song to do and just kind of make it our own.
Yeah. And you got to third place, is that right, on that show?
Yes, sir. Which is still, that's the wildest thing.
Incredible. Yeah.
Wildest thing. But after that, I started playing just bars around town, songwriters nights, and I just tried to figure it out. I would go to writers rounds and I would hear people who were just way better than me and who had songs that were that blew me away. And I learned early on, like, hey, I don't have the songs. I need to write some better songs. And then I remember writing one song that I was kind of proud of, and then I thought, well, where do I put this in the set? If I'm playing 3 or 4 songs, do I put it at the front and just get the people right off the bat, and then the rest of them are kind of just okay? And so that figuring all that out was pretty wild. And then I was playing one night at Belcourt Taps, and Carol Ann Mobley was there.
Yeah.
And I played some songs at the end of the set. She said, hey, I've got somebody that you need to meet. And so we set up a meeting. I met with Rusty Gaston at This
Sony.
Music. He was, and
this
then he
before,
was, this
yeah.
was a little before. And so I played him some songs, and I remember playing him the song King of Country Music. And I got to the first chorus, the end of the first chorus, and he said, hold on, play everything you just played all over again. And so I played it for him again, and he was like, man, that's just incredible. And so we started talking, and I kind of knew from the moment I met Rusty, that's the place I wanted to be.
You don't get much better than that guy. I mean, he's just his knowledge of a song and champion for songwriters is one thing, but also just his heart and his love for people. I mean, I love that dude.
I do too, and he's a preacher.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I was like, man, this guy.
Yeah.
And when he believes in something, it makes you believe too. But and that was, I can't believe that all that happened. It just felt like the doors opened for me right there, with this music, and I felt a change. Like, okay, something is happening. I am meant to do this. God put me on this earth to do this, and I started writing with people like Tim Nichols and Connie Harrington, and I owe everything.
Couldn't find any good writers.
It's great. Hey,
man, that's Tim Nichols. That's awesome.
He invested in me.
Yeah.
And Connie invested in me, and they taught me how to write songs.
Yeah.
And I feel like I owe them so much. They're the kindest people, and I've just learned so much from them. So
that's awesome. So was that your first pub deal? This Is Us? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
That was my very first pub deal, and I wrote a bunch of songs over there, and then I got a call. I was on vacation, and Rusty, he called, and he's like, man, and he was crying. He was like, this is going to be good. I'm going to tell you something. Just trust me. It's going to be good. But we're going over to Sony. And so that's been the most incredible thing, just being over there with all the people. It's been great. It's been so good. And then I met with the people at Red Street the end of this past year, and I walked in. I played some songs for Jay DeMarcus and Alex Valentine, Kelly King, Kelly Rich, all the people over there, and I had a connection with those people at Red Street, and I just felt like this is where I want to be. They really got me as an artist.
Yeah.
And I signed a record deal over there the beginning of this year, and I'm more excited than ever. It just feels like the path is revealing itself, you know, what I'm supposed to do. And Jay DeMarcus, he's producing me. I just released 2 new songs and got some more songs coming.
Yeah, dude, I can see it on your face.
Oh,
You're
man.
just like the excitement and passion that you've got for this is just, yeah.
It's a dream. And you know, my wife and I, we've been married for this year's 15 years. And just to know that she has been there supporting me this whole way, and just to get to experience it with her. Like, there were some tough times, you know, where I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. And she was right there saying, hey, you're put on this earth for a reason, and God has a plan, and we're living by faith. And it's just, I owe so much to her. I just still can't believe we're getting to experience some of these firsts, you know, 15 years in, and my kids, you know, they're 11, 9, and 6, and they've seen me struggle. They've seen me work odd jobs, and they're getting to experience it with me too. It's a pretty amazing thing. And just it's like the first time the other day, my oldest, he was like, hey, Alexa, play Ryan Larkins. and I mean, just little things like that, you know, but I mean, they're the big things, really.
Yeah, I love that. I want to get into everything you've got coming up here in just a minute, but let's go back. So you're diving in and you're learning Willie and Merle, and you're giving yourself an education on all this historic, amazing music that country started on. And last week, you just opened for Willie Nelson. How was that?
There really are no words. I mean, it was the most incredible experience of my life. One of them, anyway. It was the most people probably I've ever performed in front of. And I walked out there. I was absolutely terrified, but then it's like there's that moment where you're like, okay, I've got to do this. I've got to win these people over. And I found some friendly faces in the audience. I told a couple stories, got a couple laughs, and I was like, okay, I've got this. And it was incredible. Got a standing ovation, which is it was like the greatest feeling. And then after that, Willie Nelson comes out. He sings Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, Georgia, On the Road Again. I'm standing like from here to the end of that stage watching him do his thing. A living legend. He is country music. Yeah. He's in my book, he's one of the greatest. One of the greatest.
Yeah.
And so there was a moment I was standing there with my wife, with my dad, with the band, and he started playing Always on My Mind. And you know, your instinct is to sing along, and everybody in that crowd was like singing along. But then he got to the chorus, and there was a hush that went over the whole place, and he sang that chorus completely by himself, and I got chills from head to toe. I mean, it was
chills as you're telling me this.
It was like a movie. It was like a movie. And then at the end of it, the crew's like, hey, come on up, sing with Willie. And so I got up there and sang, Will the Circle Be Unbroken?
Come on,
I'll
man.
Fly Away, Hard to Be Humble with Willie Nelson. And it was just, it still doesn't seem real.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And thanks to CAA and the people over there for setting that up.
Yeah.
That's a night I will never forget. As
Man.
long as I live, it was unreal. It was unreal.
That's amazing. Yeah, talk about CAA. That's a new thing too. You just recently signed with them as your agent.
Yes, sir. I had a little showcase at Red Street a few months ago, and I met Mark Dennis and Chris Burris. I've known him for a little while over there, and man, they just get me. They know what I want to do, and that team over there is just. They're the best in my book.
Yep.
And so I'm so thankful to be over there with those guys, and they're already proven. I mean, it's just getting a show with Willie and some more things coming up. It's it's exciting. I'm so thrilled to be working with those guys over at CAA.
Yeah,
It's a treat.
great.
It is just a treat.
Let's talk about a number one with Bill Anderson.
Okay, a song with Bill Anderson. Yeah, I wrote a song with Bill and Bobby Tomberlin. It's been a little while, but it was the very first time I wrote with Bill, and I walked into that room terrified. Because I know that guy and all the things that he has done. He's written so many hits. It's crazy, and he is a legend. He is just a legend. And so I walked in. I was a nervous wreck. I had this idea, about questions that we have for God when we get to heaven. And he was like, man, I like this. We started writing it, and we got about halfway through, and he just kind of teared up, and I could tell he was emotional. And he was like, man, I don't know that I can finish this song today. He had just lost a good friend of his. And he said, I just have a lot of questions for God when I get to heaven. And we started talking about it, and I just said, I believe someday it'll all make sense. And he looked up and he said, that's the song that I want to write today. And we started writing that song, and it just came together so quick. And Bill, he said, I love this song, guys, but I'm gonna have to run. And so he left a little bit early that day, and I did the work tape, and I knew it was something special, and Bobby knew it was something special, and so we were just talking about it. And Bill played it on the Opry that very next week, and he said, man, I want to record this song. And so we were just excited, just to get to hear your song played on the Opry is cool. And at that time especially, I was such a fan. I've always been a fan of the Opry and those, just everything that's happened at the Opry. It's amazing. But so he recorded that song, and I didn't really realize that he was going to make it a duet. And I'd kind of had a rough week, writing. I'd written some songs, but they weren't really that great. You go through the ups and downs of all that, and I was kind of struggling a little bit. And Rusty, at the end of a write, he said, Ryan, hey, before you leave, I want to play you something. And so he called me in his office, and I was standing there listening to Bill. He sang that first verse, and I thought, man, Bill sounds better than ever. This is incredible. And then the second verse came in, and it was Dolly Parton singing, and that gave me chills. I could not believe it. And then that song, their bluegrass version of that song, was nominated for a Grammy, which was just it's hard to put that into words. Dolly Parton is one of the greatest too, just having her sing a song that you've written is a huge thing. But then having a performance of a song nominated for a Grammy, that's just, I can't put it into words. It's amazing. Yeah. It is amazing.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. It's just, to be able to witness that as he's like your first big hit that's taken off, and it's by those two in the circle.
It's crazy. It's crazy. My very first cut as a songwriter was Bill Anderson and Dolly Parton, and I can't say enough about Bobby Tomberlin. Is one of my favorite people, one of my favorite writers, and he's like a walking country music encyclopedia. He just knows the history, and I love being around that guy. Such a nice person, and I consider him a good friend. And Bill, I feel like I've just learned so much from him, just how to be in this industry. You meet so many different people, but he is one of a kind. He's a class act, and just one of the kindest people I've ever met. And I feel I want to be like him when I grow up. You know? So it's a treat. Yeah.
We don't know each other very well, but just a little bit talking to you. It seems like that's where your heart is. I feel
Thank you.
That's the kind of person that you are, and
means a lot.
Yeah, guys like you that will get all this success, and you'll be the guy like Bill and Bobby who are pouring into somebody else. So
thank you. That's what, and another thing I've learned in this business is you don't get anywhere on your own.
No,
it is, it's always just the team around you, the co-writers, just somebody willing to believe in you, like Tim Nichols, like Connie Harrington believed in me enough to write with me early on when I had nothing going on. Bill Anderson, he did the same. It's just, I want to be that for somebody down the road, you know?
Yeah, I love it. This episode is brought to you by Sennheiser microphones. When we first started this podcast, we were using some older microphones, and Sennheiser came in and sponsored us and gave us some MK4s and 914s. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's made all of the difference in the world. We love these microphones. We use them at the listening room as well. And I just can't say enough great things about them. Go check out Sennheiser.com. If you are into music in any way, their microphones are hands down the best on the planet. Go check them out, Sennheiser.com. And thank you, Sennheiser, for the support and the sponsorship. We love y'all. Well, so what was the kind of path after that? Like, you know, you have that happen, and then you just had, I mean, Cody Johnson is on fire right now.
He's on fire.
And this is like hot off the press, like just had a cut. So you're,
yes, sir.
You're to the point where you can talk about everything going on with that now. So
yes.
Kind of walk me through everything up to that point.
So it's a crazy thing. I actually wrote this song, The Painter, with I wrote it with Kat Higgins and Benji Davis, and I wrote that song about 3 or 4 months into my first publishing deal. So that song's about 4 years old. So I wrote that before even Someday It'll All Make Sense. It's funny, the timing of everything.
Yep.
But I just remember walking into the room that day. I just had this feeling of just being thankful. You know, it was so fresh, so new, just having a publishing deal. And I just thought back about my wife. You know, I remember I was working this job that I just did not like. And I was kind of depressed. I wasn't really playing my guitar around the house, wasn't singing songs. And my wife said, you know, we need to change. You need to quit this job. You need to go in tomorrow, quit this job. We're going to take a step of faith, and God's going to work this out. And I went in, I quit my job, and I was thinking about that day because I'd just gotten this deal right after that, and I was just thinking about how my world was black and white, you know, before my wife and I had this idea. She's a painter, and I was thinking about all these different painting words, you know, like brush, masterpiece, you know, canvas, and I presented this idea to Kat Higgins and Benji Davis, and they were like, I like that. I don't know that that's been done before. And we were in the front room at This Music, and Benji Davis, he just picked up his guitar and he said, she talks about the future like she's flipping through a magazine. And I just about fell out of my chair. I thought, man, that is the most brilliant thing, you know, an opening line that gets everybody's attention, you know, and I got chills. And so we finished that song. And again, those two writers are two of the best writers in town. I cannot say enough good about Benji. I mean, he's brilliant. I mean, some of the things that he comes out with, and Kat Higgins too. I mean, she's incredible. She brings a woman's perspective too, which I love. I love having that in the writer's room because it feels like, you know, a lot of times it's just dudes trying to write a song that women want to hear, and that kind of makes no sense to me.
You've got the woman in the room telling you, no, this is what we want to hear.
That's exactly right. And she's a class act too. I can't say enough good about her, but yeah, we wrote that song 3 or 4 years ago, and Aubrey Roop, she's my person at Sony, and she heard that song. She just got there probably last year to Sony, and she heard that song and she said that song needs to be cut, and so she believed in it enough to send it to Cody's camp, and he heard it and recorded it, and he recorded I think October or November of last year. And you hear of people recording the songs, and that still doesn't mean you made the album. But then just a few weeks ago I found out it was going to be the next single, or the first single off of this new album, and it's been a wild few days. It's just it feels like everybody's loving that song, and the coolest thing is how much it connects with Cody, with his story. He's been married 15 years. I've been married 15 years. There is it's a similar story, and it's just a tribute to the women in our lives, who are the painters. So I'm so thankful for that song, and it's special to share that with my wife as my first single on country radio. Just it's really something.
Maybe we'll be celebrating another number one here soon.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, man.
That would be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to switch and talk about your project.
Yes, sir.
Because there's so many great writers that I sit down with on this podcast that aren't doing the artist thing.
Right.
They're just focused on writing, and you've got so much success already as a writer, and so much more to come. But you have 2 songs that you've put out already.
Yes,
You've got your new EP coming out in October.
Yes, sir.
So man, it's really exciting, and already getting to play some of those things out, just on a little stage with Willie Nelson.
That's
so
right. Right. No, it has been, it is a dream. I can't even express it the right way. Just being able to work with such an incredible team, Red Street Records. It's just meant to be. I love the people over there, and Jay DeMarcus, getting to work with him. He is a superstar. He's done this thing, and I feel like I'm getting so much of his wisdom poured into me. He knows how to create a great set for a show. He knows how to produce a great song. He writes great songs. He is a businessman. I'm getting all of that, and he's produced these songs, and I recorded 5 songs total with him. With Pete Good also, I recorded a song with him, and Ilya Tashinsky, he was a part of all that. It's been a great crew I've been working with, and the songs are just some of my favorites I've ever written. Right out of the gate, we have She's the Tough One and Man That Holds the Beer. And She's the Tough One is a song that I wrote with Carlo Colasaco and Blake Chaffin, and it just talks about my wife, but it also it just is about all the tough women in our lives, about the women who are, doctors, lawyers, school teachers, nurses. It's about the women who are grandmothers, mothers, daughters, and it's all the women who encourage us to live out our dreams and to be the best people that we can be. And in the first verse, it's like, I'm up with the sun early, ain't afraid to get my hands dirty. Wild horse that can't be tamed. It sets it up for like, I'm the tough one, but then the chorus comes in, but she's the tough one. So I'm excited about that song. I'm excited about Man That Holds the Beer. I think it's just a great song that just puts a smile on people's face. It's about a man who has had a long, hard week of work, and he gets home, he sits on the back porch, cracks open a cold one, and he's just counting his blessings and is just thankful for everything that he has. And then I've got some more coming in October I'm just so excited about, and I can't wait to share this new music. It's going to be so good.
Yeah. What's the release date?
October 13th.
Okay.
So it's going to be so good. I cannot wait to share it.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite song on there?
It's hard to say. It really is hard to say. And I know people say, "Oh, they're like your babies," but they really are. I will say the song that I love playing live the most is still probably King of Country Music. And that's a song that I just had this idea with my kids in the back seat. I was listening to classic country music driving down Charlotte Avenue. I was listening to Merle, Willie, Patsy Cline, all these just great classic singers. And I was at a red light on Charlotte Avenue, and my boy in the back seat, he said, "Dad, who's the greatest country singer of all time? Who's the king of country music?" And it just stumped me because there are so many great ones, and George Strait in my book, he's got to be one of them anyway. But it hit me there at that red light, and we wrote this song. I wrote this song with Will Duvall and J.R. McCoy, and the chorus is just, "Some say Jones, some say Travis, some say Strait, some say Haggard are sitting on the throne. All that's well and good, don't get me wrong, but the king of country music is the song." And to me, just as a songwriter and as a country music lover, where would we be without those great songs, without Amarillo by Morning, without Silver Wings, without Always on My Mind? Where would country music be? Even those great singers wouldn't be who they are without a great song.
Yeah. So
that song means a lot to me, and that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I wanted to start doing this podcast. Is I think it is the writers that create all this thing, all this great songs, and I think back then, they did write a lot of their stuff and most of their songs, but especially now today, you're starting to get a little bit of shift back to that. But it's everybody hears a song on radio that they love so much, and but it's the story behind where did that come from? And yes, that artist, that vocalist has got to have that passion and emotion into that song so that you can feel it through the speakers.
Absolutely.
But it's that story of getting in a room and creating this masterpiece that is where it all starts. So
that's right.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely right.
You want to play part of it?
Sure, I would love to. Let's see what I got here. All right, here we go. You can hear him in the church house on Sunday morning. They're still playing on the radio. You can hear his voice from Saginaw to Houston. It echoes down the halls on Music Row. And some say Jones, some say Travis, some say Strait, some say Haggard are sitting on the throne. All that's well and good, don't get me wrong, but the king of country music is the song.
Come on, Ryan. Yeah. I love it.
Thank you so much.
That is so good, man.
Thank you.
Little history. I don't know if you knew this. This building right here that we're sitting in is where Johnny Cash bought his tractor that he put in Old Hickory Lake. Do you know that?
No way. I did not know. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
That's amazing.
This building used to be International Harvester Tractor.
No way.
And all this space back here where the venue is now was where they built the tractors. And then the front was the offices, and they'd have the Dunn tractors on display. That was the paint room over in the corner.
No way.
So yeah, when we were building this out, actually they were starting to grind down all the floors.
Okay.
So when you're walking through here and you see all the black marks on the floors, that's all the oil stains.
Now that is cool.
I was like, quit grinding. This is history right here.
No,
but
that's right. That's worth keeping for sure.
Talk about another legend right here in this building, man.
That's so great. And what a build! This place, y'all have it going on over here, man. It's been such a great place to play,
man.
Just over the past few years. I mean, and trying out new songs, and just getting the reaction. And it is the listening room. It's a place where people really are paying attention, which is hard to find, and it really is. It's probably my very favorite place in Nashville to play. So,
thank you.
It's awesome.
Thanks. So going back to writing, it could be for this new project or whatever, but
yes,
what's your favorite story of like how an idea came to you, and kind of the process that you went through to write that?
That's a good question. I did a while back, I wrote this song called Here for a Reason, and I just remember I had this neighbor, this little kid who would just come over to my house all the time, and he was just he was almost like Dennis the Menace. He would just come over at all the wrong times, and it was a stressful time with my kids. When they're young, they're still kind of in diapers, and it was just always like the worst possible times. He would just show up, and it would be some kind of like he'd have a boomerang in the tree, and he would be trying to get it down, or he'd come over at dinner time, and he'd knock on the window and just wave, or we'd be having like a little family day, and we'd be in the pool out back, and he'd come over with his floaties and his and his swimming trunks on, and one day he just kind of, I don't know, he just pushed me kind of over the edge, and I was right with Tim Nichols and Connie Harrington. And I was just telling him about this kid. I'm like, this kid is just driving me nuts, and I don't know what to even do about it. And Connie, she just said, Ryan, that kid's there for a reason, and he's not just learning something from you, but you are learning something from him. You're learning patience, and it just changed my perspective on it. And it's amazing how just even in a writer's room, sharing a story, it can change your perspective on something. And so that's still one of my favorite songs, and that's one of my favorite stories probably.
Yeah, that's great. Did you ever cut that one?
Not yet, no, sir.
Okay, yeah, you need to.
I hope to
do a music video with that kid.
That's a good idea.
Hunt him down.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, man, that's great. Well, what else is going on? So you've got this, the new project's coming out October 13th, and then what's the plans after that?
It looks like we're going to go on a little radio tour here at the end of the year, and I'm so excited. Which I've not really traveled that much, and I'm just excited to get out there and meet people and share the stories behind these songs, and I'm just excited to see the U.S. and really just to share these songs with people. I'm so thrilled to have the opportunity. I just wake up every day just grateful, and I thank God every single day that I get the chance to do what I love. I just can't get over it. I can't get over it. I'm so blessed,
Yeah.
It's a dream.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I mean, I can see it. Like I can see it in your eyes, man. So,
Thank you.
Yeah. It's going to happen. Good things happen to good people.
Oh man, I appreciate that. I believe it. I believe it just feels like all the doors are opening, and it's God's timing.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's perfect, and when it's meant to be, it happens. So I believe it's going to happen.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
Well, man, thank you so much for being here. I always like to end on the same question. So you probably know what's coming because you told me you've seen a couple of these already. But
okay.
Going back to 8-year-old Ryan here in Nashville, knowing what you know now and all the process that you've gone through, what advice do you give yourself today?
I would just say keep on going. don't give up. And that's probably what I would say. Just believe, have faith that it's going to happen, and just keep on going. That's probably what I would give, the advice I would give.
Yeah. Did you ever have a point where you were like, man, I just don't know if I can do this anymore?
I did when I was working that job that
Yeah.
my wife, she's like, we can't keep doing this. I thought, I don't see a path. We had a young family, and it was like there wasn't enough time in the day, to go out and play songs. And even when you go out and play songs, you need to have the best songs that you can possibly have.
Yeah.
And I didn't have those at the time. And so I was like, I just don't know how this is even going to work. But it all started happening. I actually got a job at the Fontenelle Mansion, which that was like the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me. I worked, and it was Barbara Mandrell's old home. It's this log cabin. It's 33,000 square feet. And I got to be a tour guide up there, and I took these tours around the house, and I got to play all these classic country songs. And I learned so much about country music and just about people. There were so many people that came from all different walks of life, different places, different ages, and it was just amazing to see the connection. Every tour, it was amazing. Like one song can bring drastically different people together, and that was just amazing to watch.
Yeah.
It really was great.
Yeah. I think you got to be in that right headspace too when you're doing, especially like, things like that, and you're playing, out, and like, that, I think that's great advice to yourself and to everybody else listening, is like, there's always going to be bad days.
That's
but
right.
You got to keep driving forward and keep showing up, kind of thing. Because I've been down on Broadway, stuff like that, and you see those pickers that, love what they do, but you can just tell when they're just so burnt out, and they're just like, man, it's just it's a paycheck.
That's right.
And I think that's the shift, is when it's no longer about how to pay the mortgage, and it becomes like, this is what God put me on this earth to do, and what I am passionate about and I love. Right. That comes out in your persona and your music, and that feeling is just like contagious to everybody else.
Sure. No, it's been the wildest ride. It's been the wildest ride. I remember my very first job, I was 15 years old, and I was painting mailboxes. That was my first job.
So you're a painter too.
I'm a painter too. And I was saving up for, a guitar, and it was this really kind of ritzy, nice neighborhood in Nashville. They had like 250 something mailboxes. And so my job that first summer was, okay, you got to go and you got to paint every mailbox in this place. So I did it. I saved up all my money, and I bought this old Martin guitar at a pawn shop for $1,000, which that's a nice guitar.
Yeah.
And I was going to write with the guy James Slater.
Yeah.
And we were set up to write at a place on Music Row, and he called me. He's like, Ryan, today I don't feel like going into Music Row. Why don't you just come to my house? And I was like, yeah, man, just send me, text me your address. And so he texted me his address, and it was that same neighborhood.
No way.
I was painting mailboxes at 15, and that was one of those moments that was like just a God wink. It's like, man, you are living the dream. This is where you started, and you are writing with a hit songwriter. You painted this mailbox. I pulled up, and it's like, I painted this mailbox. And so it was pretty wild.
That's crazy, man.
Nashville stories,
Yeah, I love it. Well, dude, we're going to keep following you, and I can't wait to have you back on at some point and talk about what this EP's done, and the radio tour and everything else, and knock on wood, like the number one hit that Cody Johnson's about to have with you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, we'll put links in the bio so everybody can follow you. But everybody listening, the songs are out there already. There's a couple released. Go check out Ryan Larkins. And then October 13th, go look for that EP. Can't wait to just watch that thing blow up.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's been an honor to be here. It really has.
Man, thanks for being here. It's been fun.
Yes, sir.
All right. This has been another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Ryan Larkins. We'll see you next time. This has been an episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information after the show, head over to chrisblair.com. That's where you can find information on these episodes, trailer notes, video links, all kinds of great stuff. Also, make sure to leave us a great rating on iTunes. Like and follow us on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. I really hope that you think this show is awesome, and we really appreciate the love and support. I promise to keep gathering great content and continuing to sit down with more amazing songwriters and artists as we grow. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for the support. We'll see you next time.